That is the next thing. After you've read the quotation, you are going to interpret it, or tell me what that quotation means. This is the single most important part of an impromptu. If you don't do this, I will automatically move you to the bottom of the round, okay, as a judge. I'm going to tell you that right now. You could interpret the quotation and do nothing else. You could flip me off and walk out of the room. I'd be fine. I'd rank you higher than the person who did it, okay? The reason being is that this is what the speech is about. This is the argument. This is what you are telling me, okay? And without the argument, I have no means to judge you whatsoever. Now, you might look at the quotation and think it's pretty simply worded, okay? It's pretty self-evident what the quotation means. Don't fall into this trap. Tell me in your own words, redefine it, and tell me what it means, okay? So that way I make sure that we're both on the same page. Does that make sense? Okay? You can go off in some weird directions sometimes. There are multiple ways to interpret things. You just need to tell me exactly how you get there. But this is the single most important thing. Do not forget this. Okay? What's next? I think I heard you say. Agree or disagree? Okay. It's as simple as that. Agree or disagree with the sentiment. I don't care which way you go. Either way is fine. Okay? Disagreeing is maybe a little bit more difficult sometimes. Okay? And disagreeing people often forget about. I find it really cool. I sometimes recommend to my competitors in a final round to disagree with the quotations, because there are a few people that do, and you maybe stand out a little bit more if you do. And people go, whoa, that looked hard. That's awesome. So maybe it's worth an extra point bump or something. But either way, agree or disagree, it doesn't ultimately matter. Okay. So what comes after agreeing or disagreeing?
Support.
Hmm?
Support your argument.
Got another step before that happens.
List the examples you're going to use.
I didn't hear what you said.
List the examples you plan on using.
Exactly. You're going to preview. You're going to preview your examples. Okay? You're going to say something like, I interpret Mr. Friedrich Nietzsche to be meaning that whenever we encounter something, assuming we don't die from it, ultimately we are going to learn from it, and we are going to grow as individuals, and we are going to become stronger once we do. I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Nietzsche when he says this, and we can understand this by looking at three very important and critical examples. First, the Battle of Gettysburg. Second, we're going to look at the birth of the roller coaster. And third, we're going to look at the personal life of Howard Taft, the president. Okay. Cool. Make sense? That's a preview. Now, why do you do this preview?
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of give the judge an idea of where you're headed, and so that they can easily follow along. Exactly.
It is hard work being a judge. I don't know if any of you realize that. If any of you judge, you probably haven't judged high school tournaments at all yet, but you have, whatever. But but it is hard work being a judge. To sit there and listen to all kinds of arguments and try to keep everything straight. The more that you can do to help me out, the more I'm going to help you out. Okay? So if you tell me where you are going, okay, I will take pity on you. Okay? The easier you can make my life. If you lose me, it's very hard to get me back. But if you tell me a preview, if you lose me for a few moments, if I'm paying attention to your hand gestures for a second, okay, and I'm not really listening to what you're saying, which sometimes happens, okay, I will then maybe be able to come back at your second point, your second argument. Okay, what happens after that?
Start the first example.
Huh?
Start the first example.
Exactly. Okay, people have been waiting to say that. Okay, you get into your examples. Now, some of you might have already started talking to your coaches about impromptu. There are multiple ways from here. By the way, this whole period of time should take about 1:30. Okay? The whole introduction should take about 1:30. Around there, give or take a few seconds. Okay? Here's where things start changing a little bit. Different schools have different structures for the rest of the speech. Some schools will have a three-point structure, okay, where you give 3 different examples. Each example illustrates your interpretation. Okay? This is the way I generally coach things in the beginning. My competitors, for the first month, or so, maybe a little bit more, are going to be doing this, okay? Because it's the easiest way, okay? It's the easiest thing to start off with because it's hard to come up with examples in the beginning, okay? And it's a lot to keep track of to just master this structure and to master what you're going to talk about, okay? That's how I start people off. But there's another set of examples. There's another structure. Well, there's multiple other structures, but the next most common is called a two-point structure, which really uses 4 examples. Okay? So right up here you have the preview, okay, preview, and all that other stuff that happens up above it. Okay. And instead of just immediately going into examples, you have 2 subpoints, which help prove the original quotation to be true. I'm just talking about this for a brief moment or two, just so you know it exists. Okay? Those 2 subpoints, okay, are not examples. They're, as I said, sub-arguments. So, first of all, adversity is all around us. Okay? And then the other one might be we grow from our experiences. And then you would come up with 2 examples which would prove each of those subpoints. Okay. Now what I'm going to tell you, I forgot to mention this, I'm going to be giving out handouts after we're all done. It has these structures on it, so you'll be able to take that with you too, and work with that. Okay. That's the second point. That's called a 2-point structure. There's a couple other ways to do this as well. This is for right now the basic way to get through this. Okay? So what should you talk about when you're talking about your examples? Okay.
How it relates to what you're trying to get across.
Okay, that's one of the 2 things I would say. Okay? And that's probably the more important one. Okay? You're constantly trying to relate back to your quotation. Why did you choose this out of everything in the world that you could have talked about to prove your argument to be true? Okay? So that's ultimately what you're trying to do, is reach back to your original argument and say, these are the things that are, this is why we're talking about this thing. The other thing I would say, in addition to tying back the quotation, is telling me the story. Giving me enough background, okay, that I am able to follow what you're talking about, okay, and why this particular thing is unique. Okay. If you're doing a 3-point structure, each of these should probably be about 1:15. About that. Okay? If you're doing a 2-point structure, each of those is about 45 seconds. Okay? So it's going to be a little bit more dense. That's another reason why I coach the 3-point structure at the beginning, is just you have a little bit more time to play around with things. In the beginning, probably your biggest challenge is going to be using your time and managing your time and filling up all of your time and dealing with prep time. At the end of this, after you're done with your 3rd example, then what do you have? Conclusion. The conclusion, okay? In my mind, and I said this before, is that the conclusion is the most worthless part of a speech, okay? And I mean that with all seriousness, okay? Conclusion, you're going to be breaking no ground. You're not going to be saying anything new in your conclusion. What is the point of a conclusion? Yeah.
To reiterate what you said in the introduction.
Okay. To give the interpretation again. To review what your points were. And then to tie it back to your original example. Your conclusion should last 30 seconds. It should leave people with a warm and fuzzy feeling. Okay? Beyond that, it doesn't do anything new. It doesn't contribute to your arguments. When I am judging impromptu, I'm not really paying attention during the conclusion. I'm writing things. Okay? And when I'm writing things, don't take that as a bad thing. Some people are really scared because judges are writing stuff all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean they're writing anything bad, first of all. They could be writing good stuff. But it also doesn't mean they're writing anything good. It could just mean that I'm structuring your speech. I'm flowing your speech to see what your arguments are, so that way when we're all done, I can cross-reference things. That's all. Any questions on anything up to this so far? Yeah?
Well, like, last year what happened was, I'm a sophomore, so last year was my first year competing. We did like a lot of CFA tournaments and stuff, and that's, like, our coach last year just kind of taught me that structure, right? the 3 example structures. I did that for a while, whatever, and broke to finals, and then went to nationals in Nashville. And it seemed like every single person there was doing that format, and I felt like such an idiot, and I was so confused. It was my first, I don't know what was going on.
Mhm.
I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I just stuck to my own thing, but it seemed like every single person I saw was doing that structure.
Mhm.
So is that like preferred? Or?
Yeah, it's generally preferred, and I'll tell you, there are people, there are teams that will, like St. Joseph's, who's not here today, but they've been very successful with the 3-point structure. Okay,